At launch, Ghost Recon Breakpoint was absolutely decimated by the gaming community. It shoehorned in a gear score system, required you to always be online, and had a seemingly crappy story that for some reason had Jon Bernthal in it. Or at least that's what Reddit told me. I wasn't around at launch, so it got me curious. After many years of updates, I wanted to see if the gear score system actually sucked, if the story was actually that bad, discover what endgame modes it has to offer, and finally, looking into what this whole Operation Motherland thing is all about. Let's boot this thing up and find out for ourselves. First, we are greeted with an immediate choice, playing in either the regular experience with gear score and rarities turned on, or the new immersive experience, which turns all that junk off. For now, I'll be playing with the gear score on to see how it compares to other looter shooters, and cause options can be overwhelming. We are introduced to the island of Aurora and the company that owns it, Skell Tech. Its owner, Jay Skell, goes on about how his company is going to revolutionize AI and drone technology to improve the world for everyone. What year was this written? He moved his company to the island of Aurora so his employees to develop the tech in peace. They could be far away from the normal poor people and develop their technology with no government oversight. We are told all communications with the island have gone dark, so the CIA sends in 32 Spec Ops soldiers called Ghosts to scope out the situation. We play as Nomad, the leader of this operation, and to keep tradition, I craft an extremely generic white man, and immediately our helicopter gets shot down. Having survived the crash, we see it wasn't gunfire, but a swarm of drones tearing our helicopters to shreds. We grab the closest weapon we can find and head off to search for survivors. As we make our way to another downed helicopter, we take out some unknown enemies. We find our first weapon, get our first loot drop, and finally catch up with some survivors fighting a mysterious and badass looking group of soldiers. All we can do is watch as I get gunned down by the professional nap hater himself, who was revealed to be Walker, someone Nomad and the other Ghosts supposedly know. We sneak away unnoticed and get in touch with someone over the radio. They tell us there are other surviving ghosts and they are keeping them safe somewhere nearby. We follow the signal to a cave entrance, which turns out to be a secret stronghold for the people living on the island, known as Erewhon, which will serve as our main home base for the duration of our playtime. It houses our typical vendors, mission givers, and where you can see other players running around. We meet our surviving comrades. We talk to the leaders of Erewhon and the true natives of Aurora, the homesteaders, and we are now free to roam about the open world, completing missions, collecting gear, and causing trouble for the occupying forces of Aurora. Now that we're introduced to the story, how does one recon their ghost until they breakpoint? As it stands today, Breakpoint feels like it has two separate games trapped inside of it. One is a tactical, military shooter where you infiltrate bases, scope out enemies and objectives, dripping out your soldier to look as cool as possible, and feeling free to finish the mission in whatever way you want. The other side is a looter shooter type game with gear scores, item rarities, random rolling stats, and level gating on certain areas. Recently playing both Division games, I was excited for a more tactical looter shooter experience, but unfortunately, gearing in Breakpoint isn't very exciting. You of course start out with crappy gear and weapons, and over time, grind your way up to the highest rarity. This progression style is the backbone of most looter shooters. Breakpoint's problem is that advancing from basic to elite gear and weapons barely changes how they actually play. The difference between a lower rarity item and an item of the highest rarity is one or two passive perks and slightly better stats. Why on earth would I waste my time grinding for higher level items just to get a gun or piece of gear that is just slightly better than what I already have? This made getting new loot drops not very memorable. We also have a gear score attached to our soldier that starts from 0 and caps at 250, which then requires you to run the endgame raid to hit the max level of 300. This gear score system is pretty weird. The only reason I can think of for gear score to be in this game is to stop the player from entering story areas, the raid, and certain endgame zones too early. Unfortunately, there is no real depth to the gearing in Breakpoint, which makes me even more confused on why they even added it. Next is a new addition I actually really liked. After the opening mission, you are given access to 7 different classes to spice up your gameplay. Each comes with a unique ability and extra bonuses as you level the class up. Instead of leveling the class with XP, you need to complete certain challenges that makes raising your level more of an active choice. It was always fun to swap out my class and try a new playstyle, especially the DLC classes like Pathfinder, which lets you roleplay as a US drone strike pilot, and Echelon, which is the coolest and most useful one in the game. Too bad I can't use it because every time I do, it crashes my game. With how stupidly huge the game world is, your best friend will be these small camps called bivouacs scattered around Aurora and will mainly be used for fast traveling once unlocked. You can also access the store, spawn any vehicle you've purchased with Skell Creds, this game's currency, change the time of day, swap out your class, and finally craft consumables or special items with resources you find while exploring. Now, onto the most most fun part of Breakpoint, getting your favorite guns and decking them out with a stupid amount of attachments. When you first arrive to Erewhon, you can visit Maria's shop and see a nice list of weapon blueprints and attachments you can buy. But if you want a specific weapon or attachment, you need to find clues or ask around for its location and actually go get it. This single-handedly made exploring more fun. When adding attachments to your weapons, there are small buffs or disadvantages that affect its performance, but honestly, I always pick the ones that look the coolest. Lastly, we have weapon marks, which are pretty straightforward. Spend materials you get from dismantling other trashy weapons and feed them into whatever guns you use most often, making them just ever so slightly better. So this is Breakpoint's main gameplay loop. You'll be clearing enemy outposts, getting new, not very interesting gear, getting scared off from enemies who are too high level every once in a while, sell all your junk, buy new guns, maybe hunt down a weapon or two, and repeat. This gameplay loop is fun. Every Ubisoft game starts out fun, but fun for how long depends entirely on your enjoyment of checklist open world gaming. Now that we have a general idea of how Breakpoint works, I think Walker wants to tell us something. I will be completely honest with you. The story of Ghost Recon Breakpoint is a modern Ubisoft tale of uninteresting objectives, boring ass characters, random ass tasks, sleep-worthy dialogue, and somewhere underneath all of that, a story that almost could have been good. Breakpoint initially lured me in with its cool ideas. Elite ghost soldiers stranded behind enemy lines. What happens when tech companies have too much autonomy and power, fighting a hardened private military company of former brothers in arms. But time and time again, Ubisoft has amazing story ideas but can't nail the execution. After doing some missions, we learned Walker, the PMC company Sentinel, and Sentinel's leader, Trey Stone, made a deal with StealthTech to be the de facto security of Aurora. Turns out Walker and Trey Stone, surprisingly, had ulterior motives. They betrayed StealthTech, taking all of StealthTech's research for themselves, locking down the island with the help of the new drone swarm. Breakpoint operates on this kind of web-based open mission structure, letting you decide which target and missions to do, with more objectives unlocking as you slowly start checking off your list. For the story campaign, you'll be finding and freeing StealthTech employees that can help shut down the drone swarm, including CEO Jay Stell himself. We have a few run-ins with Walker. We hunt down Sentinel's leadership, who are introduced and die very quickly, barely having any time to matter. Eventually, we learn Sentinel's plan is to use StealthTech's drones to assassinate some world leaders, attack some major cities, manufacture a global crisis, then swoop in at the last minute with the kill switch and save the day, acting as the world's saviors or whatever. Either way, we take out the leaders of the Wolves, Walker's elite special forces on the island, and finally, we head to Walker's last known location to put the big guy down. We deactivate the weaponized drones, which completes episode 1, aka the main campaign the game launched with. See, the story is fine, but my biggest complaint of Breakpoint and what made the already uninteresting story drag even more is how it handles its mission flow. Let me explain. Playing the campaign, I would complete a story mission. I would return to a nearby bivouac and see what my next objective was. 90% of the time, your next objective would be on the complete opposite side of the map. Aroa is a very diverse location, but this diversity makes Aroa a headache to traverse with either land or sea vehicles, leaving you with the most viable option, spawning a helicopter. The campaign devolved into me fast traveling to a bivouac, spawning a chopper, and just flying wherever I needed to go, which became boring very quickly. I will say, there is one saving grace of the whole campaign experience, and that's the performance of Lieutenant Colonel Cole D. Walker. John Bernthal does a fantastic job in this role, and what pisses me off the most is the fact the story they try to tell with Walker could have actually made for an amazing game if done correctly. Throughout the campaign, we watched these flashbacks showing Nomad and Walker when they served in the military together. We watched as this man, who first believed in and fought bravely for his country, slowly start to lose his faith in his higher-ups and the government as a whole. What boggles my gamer mind is that Walker's actual character arc is barely explored in the game, but is handled expertly in a freaking promotional trailer. Walker could have been Ghost Recon's General Shepard. It makes me very sad thinking about what could have been. I highly recommend you go watch the Breakpoint live-action trailer after this video and see how a single 2.5-minute trailer has a better character arc than a 25-hour full-ass video game campaign. Okay, enough of the story. Let's swap to something way more fun. The 4-man endgame raid called Project Titan. Huge shout out to the boys in the footage and Ardo's Erewhon Discord server for training and helping me along. Project Titan has 4 boss encounters, similar to something you would find in other looter shooters, but with a twist. Breakpoint takes its open world base clearing formula and splices it in between raid encounters to make an extremely unique experience. Upon entering Golem Island, where the raid takes place, we are told StealthTech was working on some super powerful experimental AI, alongside prototype drones that are way more powerful than anything we fought before. Of course, a group of Watcher's wolves have taken over the island and its technology, so we need to destroy the drones and take back the island. The only way for our team to find these drones is by acquiring intel, which involves driving around Golem Island completing smaller objectives, like taking out 4 panels at a satellite installation, defending a node from waves of enemies, finding and interrogating an enemy commander. Me and my team of god-tier gamers took on the first boss encounter called Ball, which is this giant tank that needs its targeting laser juggled between players every few seconds, while everyone else just shoots it until it dies. Second is this funny looking dude named Gargoyle. He spawns several hazards in the arena that need to be dodged while you and your team shoot him until he dies. Third was destroying the quantum computer that houses Stealth-Tech's AI. Pulling up to where the computer is housed by boat, one person called out certain panels that needed to be pressed to open the computer's cores, which then you and your team would shoot until it dies. Finally, we take down the 3 drones called Cerberus, which involves the team leading them in a circle, keeping them as far away from each other as possible. Everyone is shooting them until one person calls for everyone to look away, because one of the drones throws out a flashbang. You need to destroy the 3 drones at the same time to finish the encounter, and with that, the raid is complete. Each encounter has pretty simple mechanics, and sometimes leaves a little bit to be desired. Overall, a very fun and unique raid experience that I'm glad I did. The only problem is that you have to endure the campaign, which is probably my only negative. Now let's move on and knock out the 2 post-launch DLC campaigns, with Episode 2, Deep State, and Episode 3, Red Patriot. And don't worry, I'll make these quick. Starting with Episode 2, Nomad teams up with the one and only Sam Fisher to take down a new villain called the Strategist. He was working alongside Sentinel and found a way for a single person to control huge swarms of drones with their mind. The story of Episode 2 plays about the same as the base campaign, with you flying around in a helicopter, rescuing random American scientists. But the highlight of this DLC is definitely working alongside Sam Fisher. I have never played a Splinter Cell game before, but after this, I kinda want to. Every time Sam Fisher talked, I listened. The dialogue between Nomad and Sam throughout the DLC was just fantastic. Too bad the story is nothing that crazy. We complete missions to gain intel about the Strategist, learn he has some connections to the American deep state, which could complicate things. But it just ends with us having a boss fight with his mind-controlled drones, and Sam Fisher taking him back to America to be put on trial. Anyway, on to the final episode, Red Patriot. We are tasked with tracking down and taking out members of a Russian ultra-nationalist group. Yes, I had to Google what that meant. Who are working alongside the remaining leaders of Sentinel. They want to unleash a deadly chemical virus on American cities, which would cripple the US, so Sentinel can try again to swoop in with Stealth-Tech's drones and take over. And then there's Raven's Rock, the Russian guys. They want to stage their own coup back home, while everybody is busy dealing with the chaos from the weapon attacks. So a you jerk me, I jerk you type situation. We are tasked with hunting down a long list of Raven Rock members, and you are set free to tackle them however you want. After taking out all of Raven's Rock members and their leader, our final objective is to take out Sentinel's boss man, Trey Stone, once and for all. After a pretty intense final mission, America is saved, Sentinel is in disarray, and we have finished all the paid DLC campaigns, which were pretty decent, and an improvement over the base campaign, in my opinion. Now for something completely different. Breakpoint received 3 live events before development ended in April of 2022. Unfortunately, I can't play the Terminator event anymore because it was removed from the game, but they still have the other 2, with Resistance and Operation Amber Sky. Both have a small story campaign, but what makes them unique are the custom world parameters that can be turned on for a different feeling open world experience. Resistance has you helping the outcasts. Aroa's native people fight back against Sentinel forces on the island. Operation Amber Sky is all about using gas masks inside certain areas of the map that Sentinel used to test a new bioweapon. I didn't really play much of these live events, but if you're itching for more stuff to do, why not give them a try? Next is the fact that they added 3 whole-ass AI teammates, which they should have had at launch, that can join your squad the very moment you reach Erewhon. I played most of the game solo, but when I did use them, it made me feel like I was in a badass squad of tactical soldiers, making the game feel a little less lonely. Moving on to another surprising highlight was the PvP mode Ghost War. Now be warned, this game mode is beyond dead on PC, so if you want to play, you'll need to wrangle people up in a Discord server or do what I did. I watched the Steam chart numbers like a madman and queued up when the game was at its highest player count, being around 1 PM EST. PvP is a good time when you don't have hackers or people trying to connect from the other side of the planet. I just used a basic loadout of a assault rifle and sniper, with me getting a few kills and a crispy long-range headshot. PvP felt tactical with how fast you die, but truthfully, I can't really experience it fully in its current state. Maybe it's better on console, but from what I've played, it seems like I would have liked it back in the day when the servers were full. So far, everything I've covered has been part part of Breakpoint's normal gear score experience. All of it feeds back into the same loop. Raise your gear score level, hit the soft cap, then run the raid until you reach 300. That is what I'll call Breakpoint's official endgame. But after playing through all of that, I realized something. Ghost Recon Breakpoint has a second endgame, and it's the one I think should have been there from the very beginning. Welcome to what I call the immersive sandbox endgame. Let me explain. Immersive mode takes Ghost Recon Breakpoint from a shallow-feeling looter-shooter into a game that feels more in line with its predecessor. Immersive mode removes the gear store system entirely, restricts use of the shop and spawning vehicles to only Erewhon. You get injured faster, requiring you to stop and patch yourself up more often. It even makes the night darker, requiring you to actually use night vision. And the best part, everything can be tweaked. A great mode with a stupid amount of customization. The only downside to immersive mode is that you still have to play through the boringly structured campaigns or just dick around in the open world, which can be fun. But Breakpoint offers another option. A true open world tactical experience with great progression and real motivation to play besides dangling shitty deer in front of your face. I'm talking about Operation Motherland. Operation Motherland was the last big content update Ghost Recon Breakpoint ever received, and the devs went out with a bang. Here's the setup. Several months after the 3 campaigns, Nomad returns to Aroa and finds it in the middle of a global crisis. With the fall of Sentinel, all major world powers are coming to the island to try to take Skeltet's technology for themselves. The only problem is, the Bodarks, a branch of those Russian ultranationalists we fought in episode 3, have sided with the remaining Sentinel and Wolf forces, taking full control of the island. Our job is to infiltrate and help the outcasts fight off these forces and take back the island before any nation can get their hands on it. Truthfully, I don't care about the story. What Operation Motherland brings to the table is with its new conquest mode, and ooh boy, is this thing a beauty. Aroa is broken up into multiple sections, each having multiple smaller objectives that need to be completed, and one final mission to secure the sector for ourselves, and slowly make your way to their base of operations on Golem Island. This mode single-handedly fixes my biggest problem with Breakpoint, its mission flow. These sectors are small and condensed, so all missions required to clear an area are pretty close together, making the process of checking these sectors off your map feel like I'm working towards something, instead of running around doing random objectives. I'm going to stop rambling and just show you why this mode is so great. To complete the first mission of Operation Motherland, of rallying the outcasts to my cause, I need to free some VIPs being held at a prison west of the Aroa Parliament. I spawn at a nearby bivouac, but because I'm in immersive mode, I can't spawn a helicopter. I push through the woods until I find a road and some Bodarks holding a few citizens hostage, who conveniently also have a car. I scope the area out with my drone, sneak up behind, taking them out and freeing the civilians who I definitely just gave PTSD. Driving the car toward the prison, the Bodarks set up a roadblock which led me to do a little off-roading to reach my destination. I once again drone out the area, take out the guard protecting the helicopter pad, make my way up the stairs, and enter the building. I take out a few more guards, free the VIPs, almost get caught, and finally escort them out the building and into the helicopter for a quick and quiet escape. Mission complete. Without any gear score or dumbass rarities, I don't have to worry about checking every nook and cranny of an outpost searching for gear. I make up these mini objectives for myself, and it's so satisfying completing them in any way I see fit. Yes, you can do this in the main campaign or open world whenever you want, but at least for me, having my actions contribute to taking back the island really stimulated my gamer brain and made me want to keep pushing towards Golem Island to liberate all of Aroa. This is the second endgame and my personal favorite part of Breakpoint. So the question remains, did Ghost Recon Breakpoint get fixed after all the updates? Kind of, not because the gear score in its endgame was improved. It wasn't. The gear score is still very shallow. The story is mostly Ubisoft bullshit, with a few cool moments. A pretty unique raid that still requires you to grind the campaign to even play. And you still need a constant internet connection, so Ubisoft can update their stupidly overpriced skins and their item shop. But when I turn on immersive mode, customize my loadout and tactical gear, and boot into Operation Motherland, I am treated to a very good tactical sandbox that I can spend hours in solo or with some buddies. It's kinda funny how Breakpoint's last update turned the game into what people wanted from the very beginning. As always, thank you for watching this long, and I'll see you in the next one.